Aloha fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the Mastermind Creations Ocular Max Perfection Series PS-21 Medicus. So this is my first third-party Transformer ever, and I know if you guys know me at all, me being a huge Transformers fan, that seems probably kind of crazy, but I just haven't really bothered with third-party Transformers before, usually just because they're kind of pricey and I never was really sure about the quality. And usually Hasbro gets around to the characters eventually. But this is basically First Aid, but he's called Medicus because obviously they can't use the copyrighted names. And First Aid is just one of my favorites. I don't really know why. I think it's the head sculpt. I really absolutely love the visor and faceplate combination. But I've always liked the Protectobots. I've always liked Defensor, and First Aid is just one of my favorites. So when I saw this online, I was just really tempted, and I decided to finally just go ahead and try one out for the first time. The cool thing about this line, you can see here it says all built in. So you can transform him from robot to ambulance to arm for Defensor without any extra pieces. So that's kind of cool. The fist pieces and everything are just built into the robot. It's really cool. So it just really looked neat to me, and I decided to finally go ahead and try one out. So up here you can see the robot mode, you can see the ambulance mode. Not too much going on down the bottom, but it does show you silhouettes for the other 5. And I guess he's going to be called Maximus Pro, again, because they can't use Defensor, Defense Titan. So you can see here, here's First Aid, Medicus, the other 4, and then this is going to be whatever they call a hotspot, I guess. Over here on this side, you can see the robot mode, again, kind of in scale with the rest. Let me zoom out here a little bit. So they have the others in silhouette because they haven't been revealed yet, which I think is pretty cool. And then just a really big close-up of First Aid there. And on the back, you can see how it literally is the arm, transforms right into the ambulance, transforms right into the robot, all built in, no extra pieces required. And then you get kind of a cool little file card down here with some old like time tech specs, which is pretty cool. And inside the box, they actually give you one of those little decoders so that you can go ahead and see the tech specs just like in the old days, which I think is really cool. So pretty neat packaging here. He does come packaged in robot mode, so that's what we'll start with. We'll get him out of the box and we'll take a closer look. So here is Medicus out of the packaging. And I'm just going to apologize up front. I'm sure I'm going to end up calling him First Aid for most of the review. I'll try to call him Medicus when I can remember. But he is just absolutely perfect looking. I mean, the animation model for First Aid has been perfectly replicated here, which is something that I really didn't get out of the Combiner Wars First Aid that Hasbro did years ago, which is kind of what drew me to this figure. He just looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, he's got really no kibble whatsoever. You can see how perfectly compact the back here is. Really just looks fantastic. Even the legs down here, they have panels to cover everything, which we'll see more as we go. He just really looks fantastic. And like I said earlier, something about that head sculpt that's just always really resonated with me. And it just looks really cool. You got the visor, you got the faceplate. It's a very simplistic design, but I really like it a lot. You can see you have a really nice ball joint here for the head, so you can kind of look down. He can look really far back because there's also a hinge here. That's supposed to stay like that, and you can still tilt the head. But it is kind of natural for that that hinge to want to kind of activate even while you're using the ball joint. But just with the ball joint itself, you can look about that far back. But then if you want, you could go even further because of that hinge. You can tilt side to side, no problem. Obviously look side to side. So really nice range of motion there with the head sculpt, and a really nice metallic blue for the visor there, which I really like. You have a hinge here for the shoulder. Now I believe this is supposed to lock in place, but there's not really anything. There's a little tab here, but because of the way it is done, it's got a spot for it so it doesn't get in the way, but it doesn't really lock it into place. So you have a hinge there. You also have a hinge on the shoulder where it's supposed to be. Mine is ridiculously tight, which is another reason why this hinge is kind of want to move more than the other one. But you can use that. There's a swivel, of course. There's a bicep swivel. You have double jointed elbows, which is really nice. You have a wrist swivel. When you come down to the hand, each of the individual 4 fingers has a hinge. They're a little difficult to get out of here. Now, each finger is one solid piece, but you do have each one on an individual hinge, so you can use all of those 4 hands individually, or fingers rather. And then over here for the thumb, You can kind of move this around. This is on a ball joint as well, so you can kind of get some nice poses with that. You have a waist swivel, which is really nice. You have an ab crunch, which is kind of cool. You have tons of flaps here for the waist so that all of this can get out of the way. As I move this, there we go. So this is one solid piece here on the back, but then you have individual flaps in the front and then individual flaps here on the side. So that you can get your full range of motion here in the hip. You know, you can kick about that far back, but you can kick really far forward. You can kick out to the side. You have a thigh swivel, of course. You have a knee bend, which again, pretty tight, but really nice movement there. You have a little bit of movement here in the toe. You can see you have this really big heel back here, and you do get some ankle tilt, which is really nice. So he's got really great articulation, and he looks absolutely fantastic. He does come with one accessory. He has this tiny little gun, which just kind of folds open like this. And then you just open up the hand, and you can see that there's kind of like a little indent here, and that's going to fit in that little indent right there. It doesn't really like click or lock into place, but it holds pretty well as long as you don't nudge it. And then you can close the hands around it like so. I keep calling them hands. Fingers. They're fingers. The whole thing is a hand. So you can, of course, get that wrist movement there. But yeah, you can see he holds the gun very well, and it looks very cool. Just this tiny little gun. So, I mean, again, just absolutely fantastic. I love the design of this guy. He looks like he jumped right out of the cartoon. And I just absolutely love that. This panel's not cooperating. Stay in there. Sometimes, I don't know what it is. Sometimes I have this panel and then this one hand panel you'll see in a minute that don't always want to stay 100% pegged in, but they stay close enough. But yeah, he just looks absolutely fantastic. So real quick, other things you get in the box. We talked about the tech spec decoder. He comes with this little like trading card, which again just kind of has his tech specs down here, robot mode, alt mode, little bio, which is kind of a nice little thing. And then of course you get the directions. The directions are very, very good. I didn't really have any trouble with them at all. You know, they kind of have the color-coded spots to tell you what to move around. The only time I ever had any trouble, they have you collapse up the one leg for the ambulance mode, and then it says just repeat for other leg. But you'll see what I mean because in the legs we have the fist of the arm mode for defensor, and there's one hand has a thumb and the other part of the hand doesn't. So they show you with the part that doesn't have the thumb, and then they say just repeat. So it's a little difficult because you don't know what to do with that thumb piece, but I figured it out and we will get there. But yeah, really, really cool. Looks great. Really nice articulation. All the paint applications, you can see he's got the emergency, the windows and everything are painted. It's got some tail lights and everything. We'll see more of that when we get into the vehicle mode. But just all in all, really looks fantastic. I wanted to do some size comparisons real quick because he's probably bigger than you think. If you're buying these to scale with like legacy combiners, not really going to work unless you just don't mind them being that much different. But you can see here is Legacy Deluxe drag strip, and he's almost twice as tall. And also I will bring in a Voyager figure. Here is Legacy Voyager Blaster. He's even a little bit taller than him. So these are meant to scale with Masterpiece figures. I don't have any handy. Unfortunately, I packed all my Masterpiece figures away long ago. But he's about the same size as like a normal Masterpiece. So kind of like Sideswipe or Wheeljack, Blue Streak. That size of Masterpiece figure he would scale pretty perfectly with. Little bit larger than even a Voyager for Legacy. Certainly larger than a Deluxe here. But still, he looks great. So he might just kind of go with these guys for me and just be a little bit bigger. And I'll just live with it because he looks really, really cool. All right, so let's go ahead and get into transformation. Of course, we'll do the ambulance mode first. You're going to start out with the hands. If you have the thumbs up, you want to go ahead and push them back down like so. And then you want to close up all the fingers. You want to come around down here and open up this panel. And then you will spin the hand into the forearm cavity. And for whatever reason, mine don't seem to want to close 100% flush like they should. You can see here that there's a little groove, and then this large tab is meant to fit in that groove. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see right there. And it does for the most part. But sometimes it likes to try to kick out of there because, yeah, see, you can see right there, it just did it. For whatever reason, it doesn't want to go all the way in, and I don't really know why. Luckily, it's not really a problem, but it is a bit annoying. So again, we're going to come over here and then flip the hand into the forearm. And I've tried everything. I thought maybe the fingers weren't, curled up correctly, but I really feel like it's not a clearance issue. It's just that it doesn't want to go all the way. Next up, you can see this panel here on the forearm. You have to kind of get your fingernail in there, which can be a little difficult. But this is going to flip up, and then you're going to use that double jointed elbow. And you can see here that there's a tab right here, which is going to tab in right there. So this is going to kind of close up like this, and then tab in just like so. And you can kind of just move the arm out of the way. So we're going to repeat over here. Going to flip this out, collapse this down, and then that's going to peg into place. Move that out of the way. These two wheels here on the chest will actually slide down. They're on a little slider, and they can be a little tight, but you'll hear them kind of click into place down there a little bit. You're going to want to go ahead and lift that up using that hinge, because you can see it reveals those two little red tabs right there. Let me zoom in there so you can see that. Then this whole thing will flip down. The robot head will flip down into that cavity and then close up and just kind of situate just like that. We are going to spin around and come to the back. We are going to lift this section up. We are going to fold down the windshield and kind of stretch that out all the way down as far as we can. Make sure that the arms are all the way up. Now, the hinge that I showed you will stop about there. You're then going to push these up even further on those pretty tight shoulders, and then you're going to rotate them like that. So rotate those like that. And then we're going to come to here, which is going to fold out these side sections. This will fold out again. And these can be a little tight. Just be careful with them, but they will eventually go all the way open like this. Just like that. We're going to take this and put this all the way up. And that's so that we can kind of grab this little section right here and flip this all the way down. Then we're going to flip these up to kind of fill that part in. And then these are going to swing up like so. At this point, we're going to bring the arms all the way in. You can see that there's a little tab spot right there, and there is a little tab right there on the inside. So this is going to come all the way in and bring this in, and you'll hear that kind of tab into place. And when you do, you can then push this part down. You can see under here that there is a little, let me zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a little tab spot right there, and there's a little tab on top of here. So then we're going to just push that down like so, and then you can go ahead and push the light bar piece down as well. So we're going to bring the arm in, push that until you hear that snap, push that down, and then push that down like that. At this point, you're going to take this piece, and you can see that there's kind of a little ball joint in here. Right there. This is going to spin around like so. And then this is going to drop down, and those two little tabs that were kind of keeping the neck in place are going to pop into this little section right here. So this is going to come down and click into place just like that. At this point, we're going to flip these up, but before we do, if you want, you can store the gun on either side. So you're going to fold this little bit up like this, and then this is going to drop right in there like that. And then there is a little tab right here, and a tab spot right here, and there's a tiny little tab spot right there for, where is this tab? Right here. So you kind of have to rock this down a little bit. It'll kind of rock down like that, and then this will go here and tab in like so. And then you're going to, again, rock this down a little bit, and then bring this in. This will tab here. This will tab there. And then we're going to collapse this long section here. Hold on, I'm doing this wrong. This goes like this, and then this goes like that. There we go. And then the windshield will clip into place. And there you go. There is the entire front section of our ambulance. So now we are going to come down here to the legs and start this process. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is kind of spread the legs as far as we can. There's a little panel right here that I showed you earlier that I was having some trouble kind of staying in place. You're going to flip this over. This is actually going to fold down on itself like so. We're going to come to the leg section here and flip the toe down. And then this whole section will kind of come out like this. You want to unhook, and it's a little difficult to do, but right there you can see that it unhooks from the side. And then you can see that there is a like slide bar right here that we are going to slide the leg all the way up as far as it'll go. You want to grab this section here. There's a little hinge right here, but first you have to kind of pull it away a little bit like that. So you can see now there's a space there, and then this will kind of fold down. Make sure this is out of the way. You're going to take this whole section here, and it's going to spin around 180 degrees. And there are little tabs that you have to make sure you kind of pull it away a little bit so that you can clear them. But before you tab that in, you want to come down here, and you can see what I meant by the robot hand is kind of hiding in here. So you want to swivel this around. Bringing this section down, and then you want to bring this all the way out. Now normally for the robot hand you would swivel this around like this. We want to keep it up like this. Bring this in, bring this back up. This is going to come around and peg into place, forming kind of the back of the ambulance. Now what you can do, bring this part in, and I find it easier. You can actually separate these two halves. So if you kind of pull this like so, it's a little difficult to do, but there you go. You can separate those two halves. That way you can bring this in, because you can see here that there are two tab slots right there, and that's going to tab right there and there. If you try to do it all together, this is going to get in the way and hit into the robot hand. So I like to do it separately. So then you can kind of push this back down. That all pegs together like so. Then you can just kind of tuck those robot hand pieces like that. Bring this back, push that all back in together. Then you can go ahead and fold that tab up like that. And then we are going to rotate this in. Now there's a little slide here on the thigh. You want to slide the thigh in as far as it can go until you can see how the pieces don't really line up anymore. And then you can bring this in, make sure that's all closed up, swivel this around, and then this is going to clip up into here and kind of connect all like so. Tab everything in, and there you go. We've got half of our ambulance done. So this is where it says just do it again with the other leg. Well, you're going to see how that's a little problematic, but we'll get there. It's not too bad. So once again, we're going to flip this part down. We're going to open up this tab, flip this down. We're going to unhook the leg, the white part of the leg from the red part of the leg, like so. Then we're going to slide this out as far as we can. Move this out of the way a little bit. We're going to take this and open it up. Let me zoom out a little bit. So again, we want to kind of pull this away. A little easier said than done. And then flip that down. Open up the panel. Pull the hands out. And you don't really have to do much, but you can see here that we have this like thumb piece now. So because this is going to be the part of the hand that has the thumb, you can see this extra pieces here. So when we bring this up, we want to pull this down. We need to spin this around 180 degrees again, and then bring this piece up, so that it pegs into place. And then once again, I'm going to split these two pieces, bring this in all the way like so. There we go. And then I'm going to split these parts again for simplicity. Come on. It can be a little easier said than done. Honestly, it's just kind of finding the right spot to grab it is the hardest part. Come on. I kind of have to push this down. It is not wanting to cooperate. But I promise it can. You know, because I have this in the way. That's why. There we go. Okay. Now we can orient this correctly, bring this in, and peg those two pieces together, like we did on the other half. Then we're going to just tuck these in. But you want to be careful because you have this thumb piece that it's really better if you can, and I'm probably going to have to unpeg this so I can swivel it out because it's easier to do. If you swivel it out, so you need to make sure that it can close. And I don't think that should be a problem there, but I'm sure we'll find out if it is. So that goes like that. Then we can close this, bring this back up, get that into position, and then we are going to swivel this down. And you just need to make sure that it's not going to be a problem on top of that thumb piece. And then we can close this all back together. What is going on here? And then close this all up. Come on. I'm wondering if that... Oh, you know why? I know exactly why. Because I forgot to swivel that all the way in. You got to make sure you swivel that thigh piece. Now it should peg in together. You know what? That thumb must not be oriented correctly or it's getting in my way here. Okay. All right, I'm going to have to mess with the thumb a little bit to get it situated. Okay, so I finally got the thumb situated, and I'll show you how I have it when we go ahead and transform him into arm mode. But here is our finished ambulance, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. It's got the emergency painted on the side, all the windows line up, and everything's painted very nicely. You have some translucent windows here in the front. Honestly, I kind of wish they were just all painted for uniformity because, you know, I'm having a nice translucent window here, but I'm just seeing, you know, arms and hinges and pieces that it's not like I actually have an inside of the ambulance there. So I guess I would have rather them all just have been painted for uniformity. But you have a nice painted window here. You got the windshield wiper. You got some nice taillights painted, a spot for the license plate. Underneath, really pretty tight down here. Not really any robot kibble showing, which is nice. It's got rubber tires. Whoops. Which is not going to really roll very nice because I have a cloth down for my review station, but it's nice rubber tires. You got the light bar up here, which looks fantastic. You got little rear view windows here. Just all in all, it's a really nice, compact little ambulance mode. And I like it quite a bit. Alright, so going to the arm mode is pretty simple. I'm going to zoom out here. So what we're going to do is we're going to split the legs again. And unpeg them and swivel them down. Like so. Let me do that on this side as well. Then we're going to open up this panel. Go ahead and open up just this bottom part as well. And flip that down. so that you can pop out the hands, and then you're going to unpeg this. This is going to swivel around. You can see that there's another tab right here, and there is a tab spot there on the inside. So this is going to come around, tab into place like so. And you can see how I have the thumb here. That's kind of how you want it, so that it's all kind of on the same level so that it can fit. But then we can bring this down. This will come all the way down like so. Then you can go ahead and close this back up and fold this back in. Then you want to come around to the back, and you can see that there's a little tab spot right here and a tab. This is going to flip up, and this kind of keeps this in place so that this piece doesn't waggle around as much because you don't have it connected to the rest of it. So that's going to keep that in place right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it again right here so I don't forget. Come around to this side, lift this panel up like so, flip that down, pull out your robot hands, temporarily unpeg this so that it can spin around, flip that panel down, peg that back in, flip that panel back up, close this back up. And then you still want to make sure that the thighs are pushed in as much as possible, because then you're going to just close all of this back together. And you want to make sure that this is down so that the two parts of the hands can peg in together. And then you have your giant robot hand down here, which is pretty cool. So I'll flip out this piece of the thumb. And then you have all these articulation points. So you have a swivel here. Let me zoom in. You have a swivel up and down. You have a ball joint there, right here. You have double hinged fingers, one in there. And then for the actual fingers, of course, you can open this hinge right there, as well as 1, 2, 3 little pins on each finger. And because you connect that together, you can actually spin the whole arm, which it's really, really well done. You can see there's kind of like a little track. Now, if you have it swiveled, you have to make sure before you take it apart that you line it back up again, because it does have to break at this seam when you're pulling them apart. But that's pretty cool. You get a decent range of motion there for the wrist. So I'm going to go ahead and just close these up like so. I'm not great at posing these individually articulated hands, but we'll just do something like that. You want to go ahead and spin this around like this, and then you want to, you have to spin this around as well, like that. So that way you have an elbow here. You have the ab crunch is kind of giving you like an extra joint there at the shoulder, which is kind of cool. You have the movement there from the hips as like an elbow. You kind of have like double jointed elbows really because of that. The other thing you have to do is extend the ab crunch all the way, and that will pop this section up so that you can lift that up. And then when you put this back down, it'll pop this section out. Then you can close this. Actually, you have to pull this down a little bit, and then you can close this back up and then pop that up. And that's actually the arm connector joint. So that's how it's going to connect to Defensor. Now the directions say that if you want to go ahead and pop the windshield up, because that's kind of how the animation model was, and certainly how the original toy was. It had that flap that just hung up there. So if you want to kind of recreate that, you can. I mean, at this point, I'm just going to keep it closed because I just think it looks cleaner. But yeah, you have the connection point there. You have this spin here, so you have a bicep swivel. You have the double jointed elbows, and then you have the wrist swivel, as well as the super articulated hand, all the different fingers and everything. So he's going to be a big boy when we're all said and done. He is definitely going to be a rather large combiner, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, so there's your arm mode. I think it looks great. Pretty simple to get it in that mode, and just really, really looks good. So I think Medicus, aka First Aid, is pretty astounding, honestly. I think the robot mode looks absolutely fantastic. It looks exactly like the animation model that I remember. Really just looks like it jumped straight out of the cartoon. The transformation into the ambulance isn't terrible. I mean, once you do it a few times, it gets to be very intuitive, and it's very easy to make it go back and forth and do what you need to do. It's just a lot of panels and things moving around, but really not too bad. Certainly not as bad as some of the other third-party figures that I've seen. Ambulance mode looks great. The arm mode, I think, looks fantastic. It's pretty easy to get from the ambulance mode to the arm mode, so that's really not too difficult. Honestly, I'd love an Autobot symbol right about there, but I understand why they can't do that. Maybe I'll have to get a sticker or something to pop on there, and then maybe another one for the ambulance mode. I don't know. But he just looks great. I mean, honestly, it's so compact. It's really well done. The transformation, like I said, fairly intricate, but once you get the hang of it, really not too bad. And I'm just loving him. I think he looks fantastic. I'm really excited to get the rest of them. I have no idea when that's going to happen. I don't even think they've announced who the second one is going to be yet. Let alone a release date or anything like that. But once pre-orders go up, you can be sure I will definitely be getting in on that, because I definitely need a fully done Defensor by the time this is all over. I've seen digital renders for like Blades looks amazing, Streetwise looks amazing, Hotspot looks pretty good. I mean, Groove was kind of always my least favorite, but even he looks pretty good. So I absolutely love this figure. It is a little pricey, so be aware of that. I got mine over at BBTS. I think they still have some in stock if you're looking for this guy. I just happened to pop over there and they had it, so I grabbed it quick. But yeah, I like them a lot. Very, very cool. Like I said, scales more with Masterpiece figures. I think that's what they're meant to scale with. Definitely not really in scale with Legacy at all. I kind of wish it was, but then it would have to be much smaller, and I feel like that would be harder to do. And the one thing is, I feel like the quality is pretty solid. Honestly, he feels pretty solid. I didn't really have any problems. I've transformed this back and forth a lot of times just to practice it, and you know, some of the panels are a little loose. You know, really these ones on one of the ones on the inside here has gotten a little loose just from transforming it back and forth, but it's really not a big deal. It holds in place in all the modes, so no problems there. Yeah, I don't really have too much to complain about this guy. I think he's pretty great, and I'm really just excited to see what else we get for the rest of the I almost said Combaticons. The Protectobots. They also did the Combaticons, which I think is why they're on my mind. But yeah, I think the rest of the Protectobots should be pretty great, and, you know, this guy is just absolutely fantastic. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.